roots. I will tell you that in the Clinton years, there was a budget discipline called, the shorthand was PAYGO, that whatever it was that we were adding, and I wasn't a member of Congress then, you had to identify what we refer to as a pay for. So if we were going to do something that cost, fill in the blank, $500 million, then we had to identify $500 million. We either had to cut it from somewhere, or we had to increase revenue from somewhere. That was the budget discipline that, by the way, I said before that in the last 50 years we've had 4 balanced budgets. Those 4 balanced budgets were in part as a result of that budget discipline. It was not renewed. That policy was not renewed. I'm a big proponent of renewing that policy. I really believe that we need to impose on ourselves that kind of budget discipline so that we don't find ourselves in the circumstances that we're in right now. And I don't know whether that answers your question or not, but I think we need that kind of externally imposed budget discipline in order for us to see to it that we are living within our means. I hope, pointed out, though, just how difficult it is to live within our means if one of the lines in the sand is we can't increase our revenue. Okay, you, sir. You.
No, you don't. Don't worry.
Boy.
Oh, here comes Phil Donahue.
Boy.
The $4 million that $4 billion you're going to save from the oil companies by taking away their tax deduction, they're not going to make up by running car washes and bake sales. They're going to raise the price of oil, which is going to kill the economy. Taking away the subsidy from the tobacco companies makes a lot of sense because they're producing a product that's making us sick that we're paying for the health care on. But you're not going to take this away from the oil companies. They're just going to keep raising the price of oil.
Let me engage you on that. I believe there is such a thing as corporate responsibility. I really do. And I think, no, I know maybe I'm living in an ideal world here, but I think that if you were to take your position to its logical extreme, we should be cutting their taxes. We should be, by the way, the effective tax rate that ExxonMobil paid in 2010 was 0.4%. I'm going to guess most of you had an effective tax rate a little higher than 0.4%. Okay, so look, I know the argument. I've had the argument. I believe, though, that there's something to be said about having people pay their fair share. And there is something to be said for taking something that maybe, when it was introduced into the tax code, made some sense. I mean, when oil was $17 a barrel, maybe it made some sense to encourage oil companies to expand their exploration efforts. When oil is $98 a barrel, it's a little hard to justify subsidizing them to do what they're going to do anyway, which is drill for oil because they're making a ton of dough by doing it. All right.
That costs seniors over $250 a month in premiums, and their head of United Healthcare walks away with $24 million in a bonus. Forget about a salary. $24 million in a bonus. So where's the corporate responsibility there?
Well, one of the things that we're doing with the health care law is we are saying to insurance companies that 80 cents of every dollar they take in has to actually be paid back out in terms of covering medical expenses. And I think we're going to see either premiums come down, or we're going to see an end to the days of those kinds of 7- and 8-figure bonuses. There's a question way in the back. Red, yes, thank you. Waving the white thing there. And sir, I'll come to you next. Yes? Is someone going to ask a question? Oh, okay.
Yes. Mr. Bishop, you touched very lightly on the money that has been taken from Social Security. I think that people don't realize how much has been taken from Social Security. It is $2.5 trillion over decades. And this year, they intend to take another $185 billion out of Social Security again. And yet we're being told that there isn't enough money in Social Security to continue to pay us. Now, the government has put IOUs into these trust fund. What good are those IOUs if you never intend to pay them back?
Well, let me just try to, what you are articulating is an open and shut argument, case closed, game over, for why we have to increase the debt limit. Because those IOUs are worth something, okay? They are worth, to this moment, the U.S. Treasury bond is the safest investment in the world. AAA rating, and when the stock market went down in the fall of 2008, what happened? What did people do? They invested in U.S. Treasury bonds when they were paying 0 interest, because it was the safest place to put their money. And so if we were to allow that to be diminished in any way, and we would not just diminish it, we would destroy it if we don't raise the debt limit, that the consequences would be catastrophic. So what you're saying, look, Social Security revenue ought to be designated for Social Security expenses. But we have to live in the real world. And the real world is, as you said, that we have taken to, and I don't know, I mean, I'm trusting you to have the right number, yes, to some $1 trillion. We have to see to it. We have a solemn obligation to see to it that that obligation is fully discharged, and that we stand behind what we owe. I have time for a couple, yes, you, ma'am, yes. I'm sorry? Well, all right, let's go. I'm glad I only got 5 minutes left. You guys are getting a little restless here. Yes.
Thank you, Congressman Bishop. This is why I came today, because of the confusion and the misinformation. Most people don't understand the convolution of this money and being held in the Treasury and Treasury bonds being owed back to Social Security. It was supposed to be put in a lockbox, I remember many years ago when I first started listening to politics, but now people are starting to get scared. And if, as you say, the debt limit has to be raised because this money is owed as a loan. Is that what you're explaining? And I wish people on TV would be more specific.
The federal government has borrowed money over the course of decades from the surplus of the Social Security Trust Fund to pay other expenses that the federal government incurs. And whatever it is, it could, okay, but that's not what I meant. What I meant was whatever expenses they are. I mean, it could be, you know, it could be paying for, students to go to college. It could be paying the payroll of the young men and women who are serving in Afghanistan. Whatever it is, I mean, we're spending it on that. But like I said, we are where we are, and we've got to move forward from where we are in a way that is responsible. But my own personal, you know, sort of threshold is that we have to protect the solvency of the Social Security Trust Fund and the revenue, the paychecks that people count on to live their lives. We cannot diminish that. We simply cannot, and we have an obligation to stand behind it. I'm going to, you and then the woman there, and then I really do have to go. And all right, I'm going to do 3 questions. 3 questions real quick.
Oh, what I wanted to say is, first of all, I don't even want Social Security and Medicare even on the budget table if we're supposed to have a solvent trust fund. That's the first thing. Okay. We shouldn't be bothered with raised premiums or any additional cost. And the other question, which never was answered for me, and I've asked for so many people, if we now pay a Social Security and Medicare tax based on a little over $100,000 of income per person, if this were raised to pay this tax on every earned dollar and every one of these corporate bonuses, Social Security would have more money than they know what to do with. Even with the government raiding the cookie jar.
Oof. Okay. But first off, just to gently correct a factual statement, the Medicare withholding, the Medicare trust fund withholding is on every dollar earned. Okay. Social Security cuts off at I think 106.9 or something like that. And look, I think increasing the Social Security withholding from higher levels of income absolutely has, let me just finish, absolutely has to be on the table. Now, but point out again, when I say that the line in the sand that my friends on the other side of the aisle have drawn, which is no new revenue, none, that solution is off the table. And so that says if that solution is off the table, the only way to keep the Social Security Trust Fund solvent is by cutting benefits, and I'm not willing to accept that as a solution. Ma'am? Okay. Well, yeah.
Yeah, I have so many concerns, but I could sum them up by saying that you've made very eloquent and rational arguments today, and I think Democrats...
I made most of this stuff up, just so you know.
And Democrats are certainly winning the rational arguments, but I think we're losing the irrational arguments. We hear the same sound bites repeated, unchallenged, on the news. Job creators, job creators. I wish one Democrat would actually make up a chart, show how in the past 30 years income disparities have grown in this country, show how the country prospered when taxes were high and workers had a decent wage so they could go out and buy goods and fuel the economy and actually create jobs. So I wish someone would show, for instance, how a hedge fund CEO who pays 15% of income tax on incomes of billions, how this person's really creating jobs. Maybe they're jobs overseas. Maybe they're buying jets and yachts overseas. I don't know. But I wish someone would check it out, do the math, and I wish we would start calling conservatives disturbatives when we talk about how they're going to, by not raising this debt ceiling, put us all deeper in debt, show people the stats. Let's not just talk, let's make charts. I brought a chart, so these stats are a little old. Okay, the question is, how are you going to win the media war? How are you going to start using the rhetoric and repeating things that make sense so people can actually learn the truth and show them the numbers, not just words, show them the charts, show them the irrefutable facts of what's happened in this country in the last 30 years?
Right, let me just respond very quickly in this way. I believe that knowledge is power. I believe that when reasonable, rational people are presented with the facts, they make sound decisions. And so one of the things, I can only speak for myself, one of the things that I'm committed to doing is to be as much of a source of information as I possibly can be. I try to present it in a fashion that is unbiased, but look, I mean, I think I've, you know where I stand on things, but I will say this, that the great frustration I have is we always hear about how we can't tax the job creators. I will make two quick comments. One, not a single federal tax rate has increased since 1993, not one. Not withholding, not income tax, not estate tax, not corporate taxes, not one, and in fact we've cut the withholding, we've cut income tax rates, we've cut the estate tax, we've cut multiple cuts in terms of expensing and lots of things. Where are the jobs? I mean, if the way to get jobs is to reduce tax rates or hold them the same, where are they? So the job creators of this country, we haven't taxed them. We haven't taxed them. I'm going to go right here, and then I gotta go. I'm sorry. I'm missing votes for this. Please don't tell my mother that I'm missing votes, but we're in session right now. Yes.
Thank you very much for coming today, Mr. Bishop. I appreciate you being here. I have a question that's been bothering me for a long time. If Eisenhower can take 91% of income over millionaires, if Kennedy could get Bethlehem Steel into his office and wring their necks to get them to cooperate, what is the problem with politicians today? Are they so much owned by the corporate America that's destroying the middle class that we can't make
Thank you.
Somebody's got to stand up and take them on.
Here's a problem, and again, factual. It's going to sound partisan, but factual. There are 242 Republicans in the House of Representatives. 235 of them have signed the Grover Norquist no new tax pledge. So when you have run for election based on a commitment that you've made and a pledge you have signed, and you're taking off the table one of the tools in our toolbox, it makes the kind of dynamic, sir, that you described, it makes it much more difficult to get there. Because in order to negotiate, in order to compromise, one person can't compromise with himself. You know what I mean? You've got to have a set of people that are willing to come to the table, leave their, in effect, their ideology at the door, and say, you know what, we represent the American people here. We've got an obligation. We've got to keep this country moving forward. We've got an obligation to people who depend on us. And everything's got to be on the table. My view, everything has to be on the table. And I really do believe reasonable people, when everything is on the table, will make reasonable decisions. Does that mean everyone's going to agree with them? No. Does it mean that I'm going to agree with every bit of it? No. But it does mean that we will be motivated by what's in the best interest of the people who elected us to do their work for them, which is to try to keep them living lives of dignity, try to keep them living lives in which they pass on to the generation that followed them a better life, just like my father's generation passed on to my generation a better life. Look, I'm awful sorry I have to go, and if there's ever a time we can do this again, I'd be happy to do it. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Folks, before you go, just give me 5 minutes. I promise no more than 5 minutes. I'm a man of few words, but quality, hopefully. I wish I had the slideshow to ask how many people found value today in this meeting. Just a show of hands. Excellent. Very good. So on the way out, 2 things. Remember, drop off your TV remote, right? Leave it with one of our trusty volunteers in the red T-shirt. Do not take it home with you. They're very expensive. They are also going to be handing you folders. Christine is making her way that now on the way out. In this folder is something very important. If you're fired up about what you heard today, we need help to get your voices heard even louder. We need to go exponential. There are call sheets in here so people can call their member of Congress. There are petitions, and there's a return envelope to our office, and then there's a report back form. It takes 5 minutes. Ask your friends, ask your family to sign the petition, make a phone call. Even if their member is Congressman Bishop. Look, we heard his positions today on those issues, but he needs to still hear from his constituents so he has the power to go in and push back against these proposals. So take a folder with you. It'll take you 5 minutes to get a couple of signatures on a petition, make some phone calls. If you're interested in volunteering with us, on this table over here are volunteer applications. I don't care where you live on Long Island. I'm always looking for people who are really interested in getting involved and helping us spread our voice to make sure more people like yourselves hear about these types of meetings, but also can get engaged in changing government and making sure that government responds to the people. So thank you very much. Grab a folder, leave your remote. And last thing, if your question did not get asked and you want it asked and answered on that index card, write your name, your address, your phone number, and the question, and leave it on the registration table on the way out. We will get them to the congressman. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it. Had a great day. Safe travels home.